again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. Hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
What people do in no money, what they at you, in no at you. Go be money, miss away in the yellow correct you. Use the youth, the money, waste and bust a man to statue. Say me like a catch but they got in a figure you. Take the spit of money, God and say that is not you. One day the man above end up, him a got a pet. But it in the kitchen, some a fly by like a patu. When singers and DJs and social media's coming at you.
It burn me
300% free.
It burn me
Garbage pile up the day.
It burn me
Give the teacher them raise.
It burn me
I see corruption please.
It burn me
Mash down the people them house.
It burn me
Every day appear arms out.
It burn me
Appear money them a thief.
It burn me
And them a sell out the beach.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
For me say big up all the charities and all of the givers. Some a go like say them powerful, me no make a bigger. The 100 promises, none of them not deliver. Cut up the youth, the rapper, they down in our river. Member bowl only and they lie them tell. Corruption smell and the pocket them swell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell, go mash up people start like people themselves.
It burn me
Or they treat the market man.
It burn me
Or them a treat the cat man.
It burn me
Or they treat the peanut man.
It burn me
Or them a treat the dirt man.
It burn me
Or them a treat the son man.
It burn me
Or them a treat policeman.
It burn me
How them a treat soldier man.
It burn me
How them a treat everyone.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again.
Stibby dim day. We in Global TV says certain kind of friend we no keep. And some informer friend we love like. We in Global, bona fake friend and bona tape. We in Global, we not promote them, we not support them. Look at them on the cheek, come here represent for. We in Global TV, check it.
Good evening and welcome to this another of your Global TV broadcast. This is The People's Point of View. Good evening. Thank you for joining us and welcome to another of our program. We haven't got a lined up for you tonight, so we will just ramble about a few things that has happened throughout the week. But on the new front, 15 years of thuggery by the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party with regards to the traffic ticketing, the overcharging, 15 years worth the government will have to pay back to those who were overcharged or incorrectly charged. Good evening and welcome. Welcome to those on TikTok, to those on the Twitch, on the X, on Facebook, and on YouTube. Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you all can hear me well on whichever platform you are on. Thank you very much for being here. Good evening to everyone on the live. Good evening to those in the chat. Good evening to David Jervis. Good evening to Patricia Matthews. Good evening, Natalia Freeman. Good evening, Jason Kane. Good evening, Andrea Joan Hamilton Wilson. Good evening to Sunshine. Good evening to Patricia Matthews. All in Forest. Good evening. Good evening and welcome. Who else is in the chat? Michi, good evening and welcome. Good evening. Good evening. VM, good evening and welcome. Beat and Teach, good evening. How are you? Good evening and welcome. Beulah, good evening and welcome. Good evening. Who else is here? Who else is here? Noreen Dennison, good evening and welcome. Good evening. Good evening. Sim Sim, good evening. How are you? Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Sim Sim, I'm also over on TikTok, as you are aware. I don't know if you're over there as well. Anyway, good evening. It is Friday, the 26th of January, 2024. It is Global TV's final broadcast for the week. As you all know, we broadcast over here from Sunday to Friday. Tomorrow, I want to say to those of you who are here, we're going to make Flow TV over Forbes Legal Opinion or Hangout Spot and Weekend. So if you have not yet subscribed to Forbes Legal Opinion Wayne on YouTube, you can do so, because that is where we will do our hangout on a Friday night. Flo M, good evening and welcome. And on a Saturday night, that's where we will do our hangout on a Saturday night, where we're not so scripted and so behavable as over here. We can go off into a roasting of one at any time, but keeping it normal roast. But yes, that will be our weekend hangout or Saturday night hangout on Forbes Legal Opinion. Right. Traffic ticketing. As I said to you, I'm not quite prepared tonight, so you all have to see with my sluggishness. Yvonne Green, good evening and welcome. Good evening and welcome. Well, the court have ruled traffic fines collected over 15 years period were illegal. 7 years under the People's National Party and 8 years under the Jamaica Labour Party of ripping off motorists illegally and sometimes overcharging them for those illegal ticketing. So the court has ruled that the government ought to pay back every crack a dime. Let us see if Dr. Sharp, the crook of our books, let us see if Dr. Sharp, you can screenshot and read for yourself as much. Let us see if Dr. Sharp is going to push back on paying all these money that they have scammed from motorists. All these money that they have scammed from motorists. Has awarded 250. I'm trying to see if there's an overall figure for how much the government will have to pay back. But it's between the traffic department in the JCF and Nigel Clark department who will have to work out that ginormous amount. Lilith Lockerbie, good evening and welcome. First time seeing you in the chat room. If you are a first time If it's your first time on Global TV, please do subscribe so when we put out our notification, you will be one of the first to know that we are going live. This is a ginormous amount of money, 15 years worth of loot. 15 years worth of loot that the government will have to pay back to motorists across our country. So if you are one of those motorists who have been scammed and robbed by this government and the JCF, they knew they were collecting the money illegally. And they continued and continued, even though we know they don't have a good track record of giving account for money spent. We should demand accountability for where all those money, those billions they've collected. You remember how much the government, within 30 days, okay, thanks Lilith, within 30 days of their new traffic act, you remember how much million the government collected? Think about 15 years worth of loot. 15 years worth of loot from Jamaican motorists, no doubt a lot of them in the commuting in the people carriage industry, where we know a lot of these people get targeted on a daily basis, though sometimes they're in fault, but the police overly target them for extortion. How much of these billions that was extorted over the last 15 years under the Road Traffic Act, how much of that goes into police pocket on the ground that has not gone into the books? Remember, Dr. Crook of the books have a way of leaving things on his desk or in his office to gather cobweb. Dr. Crook of the book, who is responsible for our money as our finance secretary, did not come and tell us. He did not come and tell us that 700 billion is missing from Department of Education, Department of Health, and the Prime Minister's office. Dr. Crook of the books is the one who is in charge with the overall oversight of the country's budget. The Prime Minister is blocking the Auditor General from doing their work to protect their corruption. The Prime Minister is blocking or dangling the integrity report in order to take criminals to the poll. How long are we going to allow them to continue to play us and lead us? 15 million per month from public funds. 15 million per month. Nigel Clark could find 15 million per month to give to a company that has fraudulently misappropriate their clients' funds And Nigel Clark could find 15 million per month of our money to give to give to SSL. Never mind to dodge the real investigation in SSL. They make sure they raid the SSL compound and got rid of quite a few devices, one of which was the laptop for the financial officer of SSL. We're just learning this week 700 billion. Come, we can't call in at the 700 billion. We can't call in at the trillion. When you say 1 trillion, the 1 trillion sound little bit. The 700 billion sound more. 700 billion from our public budget. When you look over our dilapidated health care, no bed, no medicine, no linen in our hospitals, lack of surgical equipment, lack of medical equipment, lack of clinical equipment, just a general lack of day-to-day service usage. Yet the Department of Health cannot account for billions that was allocated into going into our health care. Department of Health cannot account for billions of our dollars. Yet still, they can find millions. Sharon Powell, good evening and welcome. They can find millions to give to a fraudulent Devon Hilliard, good evening and welcome. They can find millions to give to a fraudulent financier. When you cannot pay public servants in either Ministry of Health or those on the Ministry of Health or Ministry of Education. You cannot give them a livable wage. You cannot invest in the infrastructures of our school. You cannot invest in upgrading the facilities within our education and our health care. But yet we are learning this week 700 billion is unaccounted for. When will bankers and politicians start going to prison for the crime they all commit against us? Good evening, Lily Foster. When will bankers and politicians start going to prison for the crimes they commit against us? When you have a country that works on one CT scan machine and billions cannot be accounted for within the Department of Health. A country that lacks X-ray machine, a country that lacks dialysis machine, a country that lacks general all the general amenities within a hospital is lacking. But yet billions has gone missing. There's another, let's try to see if I find it because it's not coming up in the thingy here. There's another story with Nigel Clark when he's saying want 500 million, 5 billion US for some greenhouse. I'm just not picking it up. I don't know what is wrong with my. But Nigel Clark wants 505 billion US. Let me see if I did do a quick screenshot here to tell you what the thief is talking about. No. I'm terribly sorry about that. But Nigel Clark wants billions though in US dollars to do with the whole greenhouse issue. But I'll probably look at this tomorrow on global TV because it is not coming up in these lot here. Sorry. But however, going to the polls for the upcoming election, are we going to just go to the poll and do business as usual? Or are we going to the poll with Jamaica in focus? Are we going to the polls for business as usual? Or are we going to the poll to make sure we're making a decision? Royal Jamaican Karen Cecilia Cross, good evening and welcome. Good evening, good evening. The crook of the books, Auntie Karen. I refer to him, the crook of our books. But that thingy where he's asking for how much, $5 billion US dollars to do with some greenhouse. I will talk about that tomorrow because more and more Nigel continue to misappropriate and swindle our money and not give an account for them. And when you ask any question or pushback, Nigel Clark have a habit of going off on his walking back and twirling around, always coming up with, but the entire government is doing it. Nesta Morgan, Kamina Johnson, all of these people try to convince us that pigs have wings. And more, they're not getting it. That the minute they open their mouth, we lost all hope of them telling us any truth at all. Because they have always in the presence of the public, failed to tell the truth. Continue to double down on lies and promises. But with 700 billion missing from Department of Education, Department of Health, and within the Prime Minister office, we are still yet to know of how much of the many ministries that the Prime Minister controls. Are we looking to Nigel Clark for accountability? Thank you very much, Sunshine. I did inside my house is hot. I did quite a lot of work on it today to try and remove some of the glare and thing like that and try make it into a studio background. So thank you very much. Tongue ring minister. No, sir. You know, beat and teach. But we need to not let the story about the 700 billion stolen. We should not let this story go on as if this is not a major story that we should be enraged about, where our public purse have been swindled. Our public purse has been swindled. And it's like nobody is really in any massive outrage about this. But the Press Association of Jamaica is talking about this. You know, it was reported yesterday that journalists and family members were excluded from the court hearing of this alleged criminal. The high-profile case shouldn't demand that. I think Julian Silvera is getting too much special treatment. Sometimes there are what is called closed material cases where it's all closed off from the public. Even some of the evidence presented, the defense and the accused cannot know about it. But on a state case like this, where it's a normal murder, just like anybody else would be on a murder charge. However, this has a twist to corruption, a twist of corruption and cover up to it, and with politicians and police possibly involved in the corruption, or at least huge incompetence on the part of the police. But I don't see where on a mention, because in a case like this where Julian Silvera appeared in court the first time, it would just be for a mention at this point, because he's probably expecting to face further charges. You would have a plea hearing at the moment. What would done, because once it is required in law, once you charge an accused, you must take them in front of a court as soon as possible. So literally, if you charge somebody tonight, they must be in court first thing tomorrow morning. That's how it should be. Not always like that in our system. For this, where it's just a mention of reading out the charges and seeking a remand, there's not much of a detail that would go that the court would go into on a first hearing on a murder charge. This is not a terrorist case. If it was a terrorist case, then you could understand. This is a murder case. So there isn't anything. All right, let's say in this whole Julian Silvera cover-up, where more and more it's coming out that politicians in the People's National Party are highly involved in the cover-up of his crime. If they are deeming things that are going to come out of the trial or hearing as state security, then you would have something like that. Is there a state security issue? Is there a state security issue in the death of Melissa Silvera? Why the court would be barring the public from a public hearing? That's just a question on the side, really. But the Media Association is asking that question and is calling for the restoration of attendance to public hearing, because this is transparency, and it is our case, it is our court. We have a right to be able to go to the proceedings if we wish, or if not, or journalists ought to be there so they can bring us reporting, as well as the report from the court that would be put out to media sources. But there should be no, on a matter like this, there should be no blocking of public access. It would only suggest more that one another limb of our system has come on board in the cover-up. Because we know the police and the politicians are already involved. Members of the shadow cabinet. Mark Golden, let me go back to this slide. Mark Golden, well, Duns and our Duns smear. Where is Mark Golden? Right. In your thingy, Mark Golden, you said when you write your tara when you write on this. Thanks, Beat and Teach, thanks. In your tara where you write on the 16th, on the 11th of November, when you note your condolences. When you send out your condolences, Mark Golden, you said Melissa passed away last night. How did you know that she died the night and not the morning? You edited your post on the 16th of December after the pathology report came out. But what you did not do, you removed the condolences to Comrade Julian Silvera, to condolences to the Silvera family. But what you still have not done, Mark Golden, you still have not removed the last night bit. How did you come by the last night part? On the 11th of November, when you put out your statement of condolences, how did you come by the last night statement? How did you come by the last night statement? Were you aware of what time Melissa died? And if you were aware, Overcomer, good evening and welcome. You're always on Facebook. Thank you for giving us your support. As always, thank you very much. Thank you. How did you know, Mark Golden, that she died in the night and not in the morning? How did you know that, Mark Golden? Who told you when she died? Was it Julian? Was it Bunting? Was it Anishka? Was it Dr. Peter Phillips' son? Who told you that she died last night? The last night part is relevant. I wonder if Fitzbailey spoke to Mark Golden, Silvera. I wonder if Fitzbailey spoke to Mark Golden. And if he does, in Fitzbailey questioning with Mark Golden, did Fitzbailey probe into the last night bit? Or how did Mark Golden become of the last night bit knowledge? The issue though we're having is that our investigator, who are meant to be giving us ongoing updates as to the investigation in the murder, and more so into the investigation of the cover-up of the murder, we still don't know yet if there's an investigation into a murder cover-up. If there is, we want to know. We want to know who is on the probe, if it is permitted for you to tell us at this moment. If there is, we want to know how broad is the probe. And if you're not having such investigation at the moment, Fitzbailey, if there isn't an investigation into the murder cover-up of the death of Melissa Silvera, it would be awfully shocking, and you should explain to us why you think there is no reason to have an investigation into the cover-up of the death of Melissa Silvera, when all the information that's coming out is telling us there were tantamount of politicians from the People's National Party on the scene in the aftermath of the murder. Global TV will take a break, and when we return, we will continue the discussion.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. Hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
What we gonna eat no money, what we at you, eat no at you. Covid money, miss away in the little rat you. Use the youth, the money, waste no must a man to statue. Say me like a catch you, but bigger than a figure you. Take the script of money, gal and say that it's not you. One day the man above end up, him a got a bet. Too much it in the kitchen, some a fly well like a patu. My singers and DJs and social media's coming at you.
It burn me.
300% raise.
It burn me.
Garbage pile of the day.
It burn me.
Give the teacher them raise.
It burn me.
I see corruption face.
It burn me.
Mash down the people them house.
It burn me.
Every day appear arms out.
It burn me.
Appear money them a thief.
It burn me.
And them a sell out the beach.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scandal, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime.
Yes, good evening and welcome back to Global TV. I had to take my top off. In my house is hot and that top was too hot, so I had to do that. Sorry. Yes. Where was I? Mark Golden and the People's National Party and their bunkers, which will be a stick going into the election. It is now quite clear to all of us, and a lot of us who've been asking a lot of us who've been asking Mark Golden, in particular, to distance himself from Julian Silvera until this disgraceful debacle is over. But now it's becoming clear that the silence from Mark Golden and the silence in the People's National Party, it's because they are so intertwined in the cover-up. I have to keep questioning myself this. If the photograph, Ada James, good evening and welcome. Good evening and welcome. If the photograph taken by Officer Doney spark an investigation or suspicion, Parkin, good evening and welcome, Parkin. Good evening and welcome. If that photograph sparked suspicion that was taken at the crime scene by Officer Doney, why on earth wasn't the house revisited? Why on earth the house wasn't revisited and further questions asked? There was the suspicion because the photograph was taken. It was shared with other colleagues. It drew suspicion. Why Kilvera was allowed the opportunity for weeks to have gone to Ton of Flavor, good evening and welcome. Michelle Guthrie, good evening and welcome. Why was he allowed for weeks to have undergone significant renovation of the crime scene when the police suspicion arose from the very night of the 10th of November? The police suspicion arose that this isn't a normal situation. Is it because this is a politician? Is it because, but no. I wonder what time Sergeant got there. Could Sergeant have been on the bloody scene, stepping over her body, plotting the cover-up like members of the People's National Party were doing on the night? Wife of high-profile politician that was there stepping over Melissa's body. Is it possible? Is it possible that the officer visited the bloody scene on that night? Is there a possibility? Is that a possibility? But in the description area, if you're here and you have not yet subscribed to Forbes Legal Opinion, please do subscribe. Over there, we're going to rob Andrew Holness tomorrow night. Verona Shaw, good evening and welcome. Over Forbes Legal Opinion is where we will chill out on a Saturday night and relax. But there is a Zara Burton article that we will go through tomorrow night where there's some business links and connection between Mark Azan and Andrew Holness, some of which Mark Azan is saying he don't know about. Questions we need to ask ourselves: is Mark Azan lying, or could Andrew Holness and his secretary be using Mark Azan's name as director on a company without Mark Azan's knowledge? But tomorrow night, come over to Global TV, because that's where we're going to rub out Andrew Holness tomorrow night, because over, and not Global TV, over Forbes Legal Opinion, because Forbes Legal Opinion won't be so strict and nice like over Global TV. We will use rather the stick or the carrot over on Forbes Legal Opinion, whatever is required. Whatever is required. Whatever is required on Forbes Legal Opinion, we will use it. Whether we have to deploy the carrot or we have to deploy the stick. So if you have not yet subscribed to Forbes Legal Opinion, whether be on Facebook or YouTube, please do so, because that is where the catting will be done tomorrow night with the Prime Minister and Mark Azan. In the description area of tonight's show, of today, the all three shows for today, in the description area, there's an article there, 18 Degrees North, from Zara Burton. Read that article, and tomorrow night, if you don't want to call in, you can text in and say what your opinions are based on what you have read with regards to the relation with the business relationship with Mark Azan and the Prime Minister, and whether Mark Azan is lying that he is not aware of such, or whether the Prime Minister, the king chopper of our Prime Minister, is using Mark Azan's name. Brenda, good evening and welcome. Is using Mark Azan's name as a director to one of his money swindling foundation without Mr. Azan's knowledge. So that is where we will hold Andrew tomorrow night over Forbes Legal Opinion and really rip him up. So any of today's show, please go into the description area. The 18 Degrees North article is right at the top in the description area. So please do read that article. Please do read that article and familiarize yourself with what's going on in there. And then tomorrow night, we can go over Forbes Legal Opinion and we can roast Andrew about his crookedness. If any of you wants to call and give your opinion on or billions that they have swindled from our books, you can do so. The number will periodically appear on the screen. You can screenshot and call and give your opinion on any of the things that we've discussed throughout the week, or any burning issues on your mind that you would want to discuss. Feel free to call Global TV and we will facilitate your conversation. But God bless over on TikTok. Good night, good night. Good night, sunshine. Good night. Who else is here? Virgo First Lady. Wagwan. Sim. Good night to everyone on TikTok, whether you are typing in the chat or not. Good night. We're happy to have your support. We really appreciate you from time to time. But please do let us know if you have any burning issues you want to discuss. Oh, I did not change my thumbnail today. And how will, especially for those at home, how do you see, how will you vote this general election? Have you, what are you getting on the ground from your local representatives as to what they are planning to do for your community, how they're going to budget it, and not just that, but on what time scale they hope to achieve or implement any of the policies or regulations they're going to come to you with in order to get your vote. Are you going to vote on party line? Or are you going to vote for better services from your local government? What are the conversations that you will be having with your local government? I was listening to a conversation with Cliff Hughes and Juliet Holness the other day. And it's in relation to another scam of the Prime Minister, another of his $40 billion promise. And this is to do with the upgrade of our roads, where the Prime Minister is promising allocating $40 billion for the upgrade. For the upgrade of our roads. JJ, good evening and welcome. But what Juliet Holness was saying to Cliff Hughes is that MPs need to be more proactive, because Andrew Holness said there should be a consultation period between you throughout every constituency, between the people and their MP, as to how we're going to go about, because they would make it sound like 40 billion is going to Sophia Grant, good evening and welcome, good evening. That 40 billion is going to leave Jamaica pothole free, but oh no, not so. So what Juliet was saying to Cliff in that conversation, the mayor, the MP who that money will be allocated to for the upgrade of roads throughout your constituency, is to consult with the National Work Agency to find out the amount of road and the mileage of road required at the National Work Agency level, which is responsible for the road works at the central government level. Am I right in that, beat and teach? And then at the municipality level for the measurement and all the different areas of where your local roads or your parochial roads that are the responsibility of your local government authority to fix. So she said, before your consultation with your MP, then your MP should have all that information. So when the consultation between the people and the MP, then the people and the MP settled on the most important road and the more severely affected road, the roads that have a higher traffic movement. Those would be the roads that would more be on the priority to be fixed. So everybody, even though it's a local election coming up, because a lot of this $40 billion promise is centered around the local government election, because majority of our local roads across the country is in quite a dire situation. But the beat and teach, it is the people, the Prime Minister says it. So it is the people that needs to force the consultation. Your MP cannot back out of this. The Prime Minister says it. So the people must use the power of that over their MP. No consultation, no vote. So the people in all the constituencies across the country need to start contacting their MP. People in Southwest St. Elizabeth, which is my constituency, you need to contact Floyd Green. All of you delegates and all of you members, make sure Floyd Green is contacted. It shouldn't be a party thing. It's a constituency thing. It's no JLP or PNP thing. The road is for the use of Jamaicans. So all of you need to be reaching out to your MPs to have a consultation with them to find out when if your money has been approved, if your MP has had the mopping of the roads from local government and from National Works Agency, a timeline and when work will start, a timeline and when work will finish, and what are the roads that we'll be looking at. The people on the ground need to get more involved with politics. The reason why they get away with these sloppy, underdone, overdone, crooked bureaucracy is because the people is not interested and they can do whatever they want because they don't have to be accountable to anyone. They don't have to report back to anyone but them crooked self. And this is why we're seeing things like the $700 billion, because even though the permanent secretary must report to whether be the auditor general or the contractor general, whoever, them to report to the finance department or whatever. For 10 years, nobody was reporting. The people are not involved enough in politics to put pressure on these crooked politicians to make sure they do what we pay them to do and not what they simply want to do because they are under no authority to do good. Global TV will bring tonight to an end. You know we really don't go more than the hour. Thank you all for joining us tonight. If you have not yet subscribed to Global TV, please do subscribe. On all platforms, we can be found with the handle PW Global TV 358. We can be found on all social media platforms with that handle, PW Global TV 358. To those on TikTok, thank you very much for being here tonight. To those on the X, on Twitch, on Facebook, on YouTube, thank you very much. And we will no doubt see you tonight, or tomorrow night rather, over on Forbes the Eagle Opinion for the weekend hangout. Thank you very much to all my moderators who are always assisting me and keeping the chat area in order. Thanks to all my globalists who comes on night after night when my notification goes out. I do respect and appreciate your support. One love from Global TV. Have a great weekend, and we will see you back on Global TV Sunday evening, 11 p.m. UK time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. This was Global TV. Thank you very much and good night.